Hey, folks, you're doing fantastic in Chapter 11. I've been completely impressed with your attention and effort, and it takes time to get your skills to be better, right? And I appreciate you putting in the effort. So, look, we're going to do some factoring. It's really an important idea. At this level that we're doing factoring at, it's just scratching the surface. We're not really talking about complex problems. In reality, in science and stuff, problems are pretty complex. So they don't factor quite this easily. And so it's hard for me to show you, hey, here's where you're going to use factoring in a job, right? So we're just trying to build some basic skills. I don't want you to be stressed. I don't want you to beat yourself up if you don't get this immediately. I'm not saying this is going to be easy. I'm just saying they're kind of fundamental, right? They're like building blocks. So look, we've done the distributive property. You notice our objective is to use the distributive property to factor polynomial. Well, we've done the distributive property where you take 3y and you multiply it by 2y, and you get 6y squared when you do that. And you take 3y times 5, and you get 15y when you do that, right? So that's the distributive property that I usually think of when you distribute something through a polynomial, a monomial through in this case, a binomial, right? But the distributive property can be used kind of in reverse. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you look at 6y squared and you list all its factors, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to list its factors. I want you to put this down. Well, the factors of 6 are 2 times 3, right? So let me put down 2 times 3. And the factors of y squared are y times y. So I'm going to write y times y out here so I can clearly see what all the factors are. 15y is 3 times 5, right? So 15 is 3 times 5. And then we've got just 1y right there, okay? So what I'm looking for is what's called the GCF, the greatest common factor. In other words, what factors do they have in common? We're going to take all those factors that they have in common, and we're going to multiply them together to create a GCF, a greatest common factor. So they obviously have 3 in common, right? And they also have y. They have one y factor in common. So if I take and I multiply 3 times y, that's going to be my GCF. So let me write that down. GCF is 3y. Okay. So the next thing I do is I write each one of these terms. Let me kind of like put a little bubble around this. Here's a term, right? And here's a term. I'm going to write those terms with the GCF as one of the factors. So in other words, like I'm going to write 3y times something, and that's going to be equal to my 6y squared. And I'm going to write 3y times something else, that's going to be my 15y. Now, to figure out what goes in these parentheses, you take the remaining factors. Let me go like green or something like that. Come on, green. Okay. And I'm going to take the remaining factors, which were 2 and y for the 6y squared, right? And I'm just going to put the remaining factors in there. Now, if I can multiply something together, I would do that. Like if there was say a 7 over here, I'd take 2 times 7 and I'd put 14y in here. But 2 and y, that's the best I can do. I can just put down 2y, right? And then what's the remaining factor over here? 5. Okay. So almost there, not done quite yet. What I want to do now is see there's a common factor here of 3y between these two terms. So I'm going to kind of like undo the distributive property. That's kind of the way I think about it. The distributive property usually is like what I think about it is like multiplying through. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull the 3y out, and I'm going to write down 3y times what's left inside here. Well, what would be left right here? A 2y. And what would be left right over here after I factor out, or if I distribute out the 3y? Well, there'd be a 5 over here. So it's like I'm undoing the distributive property. It's like I'm like pulling the 3y back out front to some location out here, and now the 3y is sitting out front. So this is factored. It's in factored form. And what I want you to do is I want you to try, put the video on pause. I want you to try this one that has 3 terms in it. Okay, put it on pause. You try that one right there. All right. Hey, welcome back. here's what you do. You go, okay, I'm going to list each one of the terms, 20x squared, y squared, and I'm going to put their factors right over here. Well, 20 is 2 times 2. That would give me a 4. And then 4 times 5 would be 20, right? So I'm trying to list all the prime factors out here. I could have put like 4 times 5, but then, I might have missed, I don't know, might have missed that 4 is made up of 2 times 2. Then you're going to write down x times x, and then you're going to put down y times y. Okay, so we're listing all the prime factors of 20x squared y squared. Now I'm going to put down negative 45x squared y, and I'm going to list all its prime factors. So 45 is 9 times 5, right? But 9 is 3 times 3. So let's put down, I guess I could put down negative 1 because there's a negative there. Then I'd have a 3 and a 3 to make up my 9, and then a 5, right? So 9 times 5 is 45. And then x squared is, x times x, right? And then we got 1y. Okay. Let's do the next one. Negative 35x squared. And let's see, negative 35 is 7 times 5, right? But I also have a negative 1. So I got negative 1 times 7 times 5. Doesn't matter what order you list them in, okay? And then you got x times x. All right, so here's my next task. I'm going to identify the like factors. What factors they have. This one's 2, 2, and 5. This one's negative 1, 3, 3, and 5. Oh, hey, 5. Look at this. 5, 5. Is there a 5 down here? Yes. If I didn't have a 5 down here, then I would have went back and I would have undone my red underlines there. I'm trying to find the common factors here, right? Okay, they all have an x in them. That's nice. There's an x. There's an x. There's an x. Do they have another? Oh, look at that. They both have another x in them. Beautiful. There's 2 x's, 2 x factors in each one of these terms. Now, look, this one doesn't have a y down here, so I'm not going to underline these y's because it's got to be in all 3 of the factors for me to underline it. All right. So now I'm going to identify my GCF. Here we go. GCF is, let's see, 5x squared, right? Because 5 times x would be 5x squared. So here's what I do next. I write each one of the terms. Okay. Let me go over here to the left. I write each one of the terms with the GCF kind of out in front. So 5x squared times something. What am I going to put down here? Am I going to put a minus or a plus down? Well, I'm in a bit of a pickle. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down plus, and I'm going to put I don't want a parenthesis there. Let me undo the parenthesis. I'm going to put 5x squared right here. And then inside this parenthesis, you notice this negative 1's got to come along here. You'll see it appear here in just a moment, okay? So I'm going to put something in this parenthesis, and then I'm going to have 5x squared and another set of parentheses. So I would always just put a plus in between each one of these terms. This is just kind of like the work. Hey, the better you get at this, the less of this work you're going to show, okay? And you'll get better at it and probably knock out a bunch of these real quick. So the next thing I do is I got to figure out what goes in these parentheses. Well, it's the remaining. Remember how I switched to green over here? The remaining factors go inside those parentheses. So what's remaining? A 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. And y times y is y squared. So I'm going to put 4y squared in here. What's remaining here? I got a negative 1, a 3, and a y. That makes negative 9y. So I put negative 9y right there. What's remaining in here? A negative 1, a 7. I guess that's it. A negative 7 goes right over here. Okay, my last step is to take out the common factor, the GCF, and I put it out front. I go 5x squared, and then I put a parenthesis down, and then I take these green ones. I wish it would let me go back to green easily. I got to grab my mouse here. Shnikey. I put the green ones inside the parentheses. So I go 4y squared minus 9y minus 7, right? And I have now completely factored it. Okay. So here's what's going to happen next. As soon as you're done with these kind of notes, you and a partner are going to go put this problem on the whiteboard. To get you started, I want you to put down 16t and negative 40y and list all of its prime factors right out here. Okay. That's where you're going to get started. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Good luck with this homework.